All right, let's get our Facebook groups in here before it's officially time to go. All right, 1 and 2. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, June 1st, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing? I guess welcome back us to everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Had a good time. How was your long weekend?
It was good. It feels like we haven't had Broncos for breakfast in a while, so everybody should be hungry. Hungry. I'm hungry. I'm ready to eat.
Yeah, it's been it was a good weekend. No doubt about that. I did a fun backpacking trip with a buddy in town. And yeah, I'm excited to see how everything. You guys are gonna have to inform me what's happened because I got back late last night and set everything up and just dealing with stuff. So I have no idea what's even going on in the world.
That's my kind of host. Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah,
All right, well, we can do that. Why don't you say hello to some folks that have missed you?
Yeah, of course. Let's say hello to Troy Bauer in the house saying, "Hi, guys. Can't enjoy today, but we'll listen later. Hope Nick escaped all the bear attacks." Yeah, we saw 10 bear sightings on that trek. A couple of them probably a little too close for comfort. You know, you're just kind of like walking and you turn the corner and it's like, oh, should I move backwards slowly or should I like stand still? I'm going to grab the camera real quick anyway. But yeah, no, it was a pretty darn good trip. Beautiful area. Gotta love the Olympics. But good to see you, Troy. Hope you're doing well. We got our guy Kevin Gray in the house saying, "Good morning, Broncos country. Nick and Scott, big mile high salute to the country. Don't understand the signing of this kicker, Denver Broncos for life." Well, there's news number one. I saw that they signed a kicker. I did not recognize the name. What's going on, Scott?
So first, we can get your reaction about the cutting of Brandon McManus. Oh, I said it right. It's the first time I think I've gotten it right. I've got a fraternity brother, the only other McManus I know named Jason, and I have called him. I have written Jason McManus, called him that. You get that stuck in your brain, and it just doesn't come out. But Brandon McManus was cut. I don't think that comes as a big surprise to you, does it?
I mean, it's a little bit surprising just given the time of it. We have what is it? June 1st now. We got the very end of May. You had a lot of chance to like draft kickers, to sign kickers before. I guess it's probably coming with that June 1st designation so they can split it a little bit more.
I don't think there's much of a dead cap number against him. I think there may have been a 1 million dead cap. Why bother? But they saved about 2.5, and he has already re-signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what would you think his open market value would be? He was on close to 4 with the Broncos.
I'm guessing he got about 3.
235.
Yep.
So yeah, you signed with the Jaguars for 235, which I think is a better valuation of him in the open market right now. And if you're paying 4 for a 2-3 kicker, guess what? Your job's in danger. Yeah. I think it may have been Lawrence or somebody last week he asked us, are we really, what are we doing? Are we really that hard up for cash right now? And, we made the point. It doesn't matter. If you are overpaid and underperforming, your job's on the line. And the open market said Brandon McManus was worth 2.4. He was getting close to 4. That's almost double. Your job's on the line. Now, Elliott Fry is, and there was like a lot of hand wringing about this. Like, this is going to be your kicker. This is a camp body. Yeah. I mean, we see camp bodies all the time in other positions just because he's a kicker. I bet they bring in 10 kickers over the course of the spring and summer. And I'll be pretty surprised if Elliott Fry is kicking field goals for the Denver Broncos in week 1. He was in Atlanta, and it became a running joke that he was, for financial reasons, I don't know exactly why, he was bounced on and off the practice squad 8 or 9 times 2 years ago. We basically just stopped reporting it. Like we just like stopped writing about it. It's like, oh yeah, this is just a standard transaction, until finally someone actually signed him and put him on an active roster. But he's not a great kicker. He's just kind of, again, if this was any other position, I would be saying camp body. I'm going to say it now. He's a camp body. He's in there as part of the 90 to compete and help teams get reps during you need basically 4 teams worth of guys in the summer. He's one of those 4 teams. He ain't part. I just don't think he's part of the first team.
Yeah, I have not gotten to the point where I can discuss kickers too much on here, other than I know the good ones in the NFL. But Elliott Fry, obviously, Scott has the firsthand knowledge of him being with Atlanta there for a bit. But I agree with you. Not somebody that I'm writing in pen by any means. We'll see if they bring in more competition and see if they sign a kicker later on. I'm guessing that maybe they had their eye on some other kickers as well. couldn't come to the financial agreements with those kickers. So bring in Fry for cheap, and you need a guy out there. I mean, it's not just the kicker who needs work in those things. It's the snapper, it's the holder. So you have to have a functioning kicking unit to work with those other guys. So yeah, we'll see about Elliott Fry, and shout out to Brandon McManus again. I saw that he took out a full page ad in the Denver Post thanking a bunch of people on the team, trainers, people in the facilities. So class move. Last guy on the Broncos, last man on that Super Bowl 50 team that's now departed. So kind of an end of an era there. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Broncos in the kicking game. I'm a little bit nervous just because of the kicker carousel that many teams find themselves on. But I feel like I trust the special teams coaching and infrastructure now more than I have in, God, I don't even know, probably ever, given how long the special teams have been bad and how it's probably been in the last 10 years that I've started to really, really appreciate special teams.
All right, JR has a question. Are we better in the kicking area after letting McManus go? Good question. No, not right now. We don't have a kicker on the roster that was as good as McManus. However, that money basically covered Cam Fleming's contract in your savings. So that was another piece of news, Nick. Cam Fleming is back and has been re-signed. I don't remember. It all kind of runs together. It was like, had that already happened before you left? But that money basically covered a Cam Fleming to come in. Is your team better with Cam Fleming or an average kicker? I think he's better with Cam Fleming right now. And you can get an average kicker for nothing.
Yeah.
They're a dime a dozen. They really are. You think running backs don't matter? I know kickers matter. It's an over-exaggeration. It is. But, when you look at the guys, I can go in. It's like, oh, the 20th ranked kicker hit 85% of his kicks, and the 5th ranked kicker hit 90% of his kicks. Okay, I don't need a 4x premium on the guy who hit 90. Unless you're in the Super Bowl and you're maybe one kick away, then maybe it makes sense. But I think the team is probably better off with that money in Cam Fleming than they were with Brandon McManus, not counting any of the locker room off-field stuff that you hear, the distraction from, he's a big personality and he's a kicker. Dude, you're a kicker.
Yeah.
I say that, with love because I kicked in high school because I was a soccer player. I get it. You hardly feel like you're part of the damn team.
Yeah, I mean, last year there were stories of him coming out of practice in like a ref's outfit and stuff like that. So they were definitely running a tighter ship down there, and McManus and his cash was not part of that plan. Like one day into OTAs or whatever it was. But are they better at kicker number wise? Probably not. But per dollar, maybe. So, and they're looking to squeeze some money there. And like you said, Cam Fleming coming back. You know how much I loved Cam Fleming last season. Thought he was extremely underrated and beat on by some people for reasons I don't totally understand. But coming in to be a swing tackle, he's probably coming in this season. It's one of the better swing tackles in the NFL. Honestly, he was pretty good last season. So excited about bringing in Fleming. Excited to see Jeremy Shaw in the house saying, "Morning, boys, welcome back." Not worried about Patrick Surtain II's ranking. I'm worried about the other cornerbacks because they're going to see a lot of footballs their way. Yeah, the other cornerback spots are going to be interesting this season. Mathis versus Riley Moss will probably be one of the more intriguing camp early season battles for a starting position on the entire team. So the other side's going to see some stuff. I'm more curious to see if the offense can actually put out there and not be so impotent where the other team's forced to throw the football rather than turtle from halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the other team having to take a few more chances, wouldn't it? That will up the sack numbers. That will up the interception numbers. You might give up more yards, more scores, but that's okay if you're outscoring your opponent. What's the key to this game? Score more points than they do. Real shock. So, get a lead and force the other team to be a little more risky, and you should get more big plays on defense. More big plays on defense is really good when you've got two of the best defensive backs in the NFL out there, and Simmons and Surtain. I asked, and the number one. Let's finish. I want to hit some of the supers coming in before we get fully into this topic here. Want to say hello to Michael. Says good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and Buckham. Thank you for the stars, Michael. We appreciate you being here as always. And David Cromwell asks, Broncos. Actually asks if we agree. He's making the statement. The Broncos are making a big mistake not crashing for Caleb Williams or dumping for Drake May, the two quarterbacks, hotshot quarterbacks that are still in college. Do you agree? Nick, you first.
The Broncos have too much infrastructure in place, and making a more immediate win now move, trading for Sean Payton, then as soon as that happened, these were out the window. So maybe they're making a mistake. These guys are still prospects. There's no guarantees. But they went the exact opposite direction of the tank/complete rebuild, and they might not have gotten there anyway. I mean, have you seen the Arizona Cardinals roster is dreadful. Houston is horrible. I mean, there's some bad teams out there. The Broncos almost had everything go wrong last season, and they had the 5th overall pick. Now they should not have as many bad breaks next season. Much better coaching competency. Are they going to be better than 5th? If they'd have completely tore down and traded away, Justin Simmons, Garrett Bowles, like every single one of these fringe quality starter types, or better with Simmons, but they went the opposite way. So will they make a mistake by doing that? It's possible. If one of those guys turns out to be a superstar in the next, Patrick Mahomes, then yes, but it's impossible to say that right now.
Yeah, it's you don't do that this early in the season. When you've got a roster of veterans like you do, that's a betrayal to them. That's a betrayal to the professionalism that they have shown. It's a betrayal to the guys that you've hired to bring in. So no, I don't think the Broncos are making a mistake by trying to win. I think, and that's basically as simple as it sounds. Do you think it's a mistake for the Broncos to try and win football games?
I mean, no.
Sounds pretty easy to answer that question when you ask it like that, right? No, yeah. They it's not. Go out and win games. It's a betrayal to your fans and your season ticket holders. If I didn't already say that one. So, no, I don't agree, David. Appreciate the super, though. And playing on Madden, I would tank. But there's people involved. There's personalities, and there's people involved, and there's livelihoods involved in all of this. And they are not programmed to lose. You compete to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate. It does seem like the Broncos this season are probably heading towards more of a middle of the pack spot, which is not always the best area to draft because you're not really getting difference makers, but you're also not competing, hovering right around 500. But that would be an improvement, and this team just really needs some positive momentum. Didn't really used to be about that. It used to be much more about the bottom line. But there's guys in that locker room have been there for a long time, and they've never even been close to sniffing playoffs. So need to get a little bit better there, just to push in the right direction. It's been a second. So we also got Jeremy Shawn in the house. Morning, boys. Welcome. Oh, he said, did we say hello to Jeremy? He's talking.
We did. Yep, we started that one.
Okay, Kevin Gray as well.
Nick's a little rusty. Forgive him.
Tired too. Kevin Gray, good to see you. We also got DWI guys. Ethan. Morning to you, Ethan. Mark Schrader's in the house. Great to see you. Chase Wellner. Howdy, y'all. Zach Powers. Morning. David Bishop. It's been a second. Good morning. Happy June 1st, everybody. Dave Glassman's in the house as well. Good to see you. Seth saying, morning. Long time no see, fellas. Good to see you. Jamal Killings. Diamond Rattler. Got Keith Brugman always saying, so hungry, haven't had breakfast all week. Well, don't deprive yourself. We're not fasting here. Mark Schrader also, good to see you. Lawrence Rivera coming in. I thought Lawrence had a picture. Maybe he's on Facebook. Now he's hopping over on YouTube.
He's in on YouTube today. We mentioned Loris and speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Good morning. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Roy Osborne in the house. I know this one. Steve Kennedy. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you. Awesome. Good to see you. Of course, did we have another super in here? Maybe not. I did want to say hello to, of course, Michaela Israel and Jasmine. Good to see all you. So let's get into this.
I have a question real quick before we put a bow on the kicker stuff. Okay. Seth asks, and hello, Jasmine. Hope you are enjoying this gorgeous weather we're having in the Southeast. Seth asked, did anyone in here actually want to keep Brandon McManus?
If he would have come back for a reduced salary?
Let me answer that a different way. Ask that a different way. Is anyone here really upset to see him go?
I'm not upset.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's upset.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of nervousness with it just because when you have a solid kicker, which I think we can say McManus was a solid kicker, then you are okay with it for a bit. But paying elite money, kicker money, for solid isn't good enough. So, and also it's a culture thing as well. I truly do believe that. So we'll see how it plays out. But am I sad to see him go? No, not really. It was time. It just felt like time.
Yeah, and I don't have any ties to him. It's like I feel like I'm like the Javonte Williams class will be like my Broncos. Like I started covering this team 3 years ago, and this will be my third season. So like I don't have any tie. Like the only ties I've seen so far with the Denver Broncos have been pretty bad. As you all know, I had the last year of Vic Fangio and the first year of Nathaniel Hackett. I don't have a ties to a lot of these guys. No, it's not entirely true. And I definitely have ties to all of y'all. So appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, the other news that we haven't talked about. So we did have time to talk about McManus and Cam Fleming and whatnot, but Javonte Williams out there in practice running around. I mean, I'm shocked beyond shocked. I thought that there was no way in heck. Now, granted, it's non-contact, as I'm sure he's out there, walkthroughs and going through drills, but the fact that he's even out there holding the football around makes me think that, heck, how many? We are 2.5 months away until kickoff. Maybe there is a chance.
Yeah, you're talking May, even June, July, June. We're 3.5 months away.
3.5 months, excuse me.
June, July, August, and then and then part of September. There's obviously a chance now. There's a good chance. Like I'm still in disbelief a little bit with Pookie Williams in order to say 51-49, and I'm leaning towards him playing early. But when you're out there and you're able to, even just cut on air, run routes on air, and do those type of things in a knee brace, I don't care. He'll probably play in a knee brace all year. God bless him for it. He's a power back. He's a one-cut guy. He doesn't need the wiggle of whenever I think of, this is going to be, there'll be a few in here that remember this name, but whenever I think of the ultimate scat back, I think of Eric Metcalf, who was drafted as a running back and they moved him to a slot receiver. And one night on Monday Night Football, I think it was Browns and Bengals, he swings out to the right and he looked like he was skiing moguls. He went this way, and just jumped right between the two guys and went and scored. Those are the guys I worry about their knees a little bit more.
Yeah.
Javonte, I'm not putting it past him, Nick. I am not betting against this guy being able to carry the football in week 1. I'm not.
Yeah, he's not really a speed back, but he is still pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. But not a change of direction. I'm not.
No.
His strength isn't wiggle.
Yeah.
His strength is
balance, power,
and speed.
Yeah. Yeah, the balance, the ability to play through contact is incredible. So, I mean, if he comes back week 1, it completely changes my perspective of this team, of the dynamic of the team, what the Kareem Hunt signing means. And it would be unprecedented for a player to come back in football with coming off of tearing 2 ligaments in the knees and being back in less than a year. I don't think that's ever happened before. So I am still in the boat of cautiousness in this and skepticism, being like, I don't know if he will be ready week 1. But the fact that we even saw him out there, before I was saying there was no chance. Now I'm saying, like, I'm keeping my eye on it. We have more like checkpoints coming up. What does it look like?
Before we saw Tim Patrick.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
We've all been kind of penciling Tim Patrick in as he's going to be back and be part of the lineup, and what a boost that's going to be. And then we've hedged out with caution, as we always do. But the idea that you'd see Javonte Williams before Tim Patrick was foreign. That was never even considered. That's how far ahead Pookie is. And it's absolutely incredible. You always root for these guys. You always do. I root for KJ Hamler. We got kind of accused for dumping on KJ Hamler for being injured. No, we were realistic about his ability to make this team because he's been injured and non-productive because of injuries. I absolutely want him to go out there and get a 1500-yard season. I'm rooting for him. Realistically, though, on his chances of making this team, we have to be cold and calculated with this because the NFL will be.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty darn crazy. Javonte Williams hoping for the best there still to see how it continues to progress. But again, completely changes the dynamic of the offense. Having him and Kareem Hunt in the backfield with all the run game infrastructure you added would make it pretty darn special. This, the chance to be pretty darn special back there, and actually a team that does have the weaponry of the ball carriers to get it done. Dan Wilkett comes in and asks, did Denver sign Kareem Hunt? What about Dalvin Cook? No moves yet to my knowledge. Last I saw with Dalvin Cook, he might actually be going back to Minnesota now. I don't know what's going on with this Dalvin Cook saga, but no moves on the Broncos at running back besides the news that Javonte Williams is out there moving around.
He's a cut candidate, though. Dalvin Cook's not a free agent.
Not yet. No.
Okay. Yeah. So be on the look. Bolo today. Be on the lookout for him. Shaq Barrett's another one who could be one of those big times. But no, they haven't signed Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook. I don't expect that to happen. If I'm going to spend $5 or $6 million, I want it to be somewhere else. But yeah, there's bolos out on wires today, Dan. So keep an eye out. Good question from Keith coming in. Keith says, "Who's the best player that will be cut as we go to 53?" And that's really impossible to answer right now. They're moving guys on and off the 90 right now. So there's 37 players that have to get cut. And then they could be brought back right away. Last year, was it, McTelvin was one of those guys. Could there be a third-year draft pick, you think, maybe, that might not make it back? Is Jonathan Cooper? Is he on the bubble at all?
The one that sticks out to me is one we just mentioned here, KJ Hamler. Really talented player, but you've added so much at wide receiver. You added his skill set in terms of the down-the-field speed. KJ Hamler, when he's out there, has been an extremely efficient player. So he's one that's a possibility that could be one of the best players to get cut. Another one that came to mind to me, Miguel Santasteven already mentioned it, is Mike Purcell. He does a pretty good job of playing that role, but let's say
so weak in that area. God, you can't cut your only run stopper, can you?
Unless they think they can find somebody who can do a similar job out there right now, because it is a very niche position, and he's doing it at a decent price and has had injury issues. So maybe they think they can get 80% of Mike Purcell's ability at 40% of the cost, and they'll think that'll be worth it because they'll use the money elsewhere. So Purcell is definitely a possibility as well.
Yeah, that was someone else. Best player. I mean, what if you get your center in after post June 1 in free agency? I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry is still cheap. He'd be a backup, maybe. But don't you have a couple of backup caliber players that you drafted that are still fractionally of what Lloyd Cushenberry would be? Hamler, we mentioned him. Hamler might be that one. But again, I didn't even think of Hamler, honestly, Nick, because I'm thinking, when I think best, I think contributors. Now, best actually means talent and maybe even investment. And there is talent there, and there was a big investment in KJ Hamler. But I don't think of him as a contributor to this team. I think he's at 620, 640 yards in 3 years. So he hasn't contributed to the Denver Broncos in 3 years. So I didn't really even think of him as best, air quotes.
Another dark horse of this maybe would be Garrett Bowles, coming off of an injury, not playing well last season, and you just signed Cam Fleming, who now this new regime has brought in. And I thought Cam Fleming played better than Garrett Bowles last season. Garrett Bowles is pretty darn expensive. We've reached that June 1st for that designation. If you did that, he's got a pretty big contract. Now you'd be eating it in a lot of terms of dead money. I don't think it will happen. But again, I'm trying to stretch as much as I can here to answer this. Like, what could happen? Well, I guess that's a possibility given some of the variables around him.
Yeah, off the top of my head, him and Simmons were almost identical in their contracts. It was 18 cap hit with 10 in dead money. Split that across, or it feels like you could find someone that would trade for Bowles and pick up some of that money.
Yeah,
I could maybe make a trade, but again, you just finally got some depth there, Nick.
Yeah.
Then you have to go out and replace him with someone else, and it would just cost you the money that you were saving anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. The conversation is kicking over to Patrick Surtain being ranked number 4 on PFF. So maybe it's time to transition to our topic, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. So PFF does a pretty good job of giving us information to talk on this time of year. So shout out to them. And they had an article that I thought was discussion worthy. I wouldn't say disrespectful, but discussion worthy, ranking all of the cornerbacks in the NFL and top 32 cornerbacks in the NFL. And we have Patrick Surtain coming in here, ranked 4th overall. And they say that Surtain's play doesn't always look as flashy as some of the other cornerbacks, but few players can play with his level of consistency and control. His PFF coverage grade jumped from 66.3 as a rookie to 86.7 last season. If you guys recall, 2 years ago, we were constantly saying, I don't understand PFF's grading of Surtain. He's playing great coverage, but what do I know? And also
they
said
changed the person doing the grading.
Or they were influenced by outside factors and be like, oh, maybe we do need to jump him up a little bit because everybody else is talking about how his tape is teach tape, and we are not reflecting that in our grade. So obviously, it's hard not to be biased and influenced in this industry, and that's maybe that too. But maybe they did change that. Says puts him in the All-Pro conversation. Surtain won 2 All-Pros last season, so he's more in the conversation. He's less in the conversation and more so actually having won it. He had 12 games allowing fewer than 25 receiving yards, including his final 6 outings. So Surtain coming in 4th overall. I think it's a respectable number for him overall. I think anything outside of the top 5 would have been pretty egregious. And honestly, I think if I was putting him there, he'd be number 1 or number 2 in my book right now. But, it's we'll see if he plays this season. We talked about it earlier with Surtain. He doesn't have the ball production that some of the other guys have above him. And I think that's as much to do with issues around him as it is Surtain. He's getting that Champ Bailey kind of treatment where teams are not going at him as much, because why would you when you don't think the pass rush is very good and you think the other cornerback's questionable and you think the offense is dreadful?
I was going to say, and I can run the ball.
Yeah.
I was able to run the ball when I needed to. We talked about that before. It's like I could wear down this defense just series at a time over the course of the year. And then come fourth quarter, I could run the ball when I needed to. You know what I've said a zillion times to you, Nick, is I don't argue levels of elite. These guys are all pretty good football players.
Yeah.
The question I asked Nick before we went on, though, Sauce is in Denver and Pat Surtain's in New York. Who's sitting on top of this list?
Probably Surtain.
Probably Surtain. The New York media pushes him up just a bit higher. Holds him to that get it? See what I did there? Holds him to that higher, not a higher standard, but holds his place up there. So again, when it comes time, and I said this about Matthew Stafford, when it comes time to get a paycheck, Pat Surtain may be the highest paid corner in the NFL when his rookie contract is up. Then Sauce may trump him the next year, so you're in the room. You're right there. Sauce is a really good player. And it ain't holding if they don't call it. So
yeah.
I don't care. All the olds all the time. They didn't call it. Sorry. And he was someone that we really, really liked last year and had a really, really good season. I'm not going to argue that. I'll tell you, I would rather, I think Surtain has shown more consistency over 2 years. I've got a bigger sample size. He was on a team who was dysfunctional. Not that the Jets aren't, but the Jets were pretty good last year outside of their quarterback play. I think they had this isn't a bold statement, Nick. I think they had a much better infrastructure and plan going forward with Robert Saleh than the Denver Broncos had last year. So I'm okay with it. I would take Pat Surtain first for the reasons I just mentioned. But if I was having this debate with someone else, I wouldn't tell them they were out of their minds, like I did when we were talking about Joe Burrow versus Jamar Chase. When I get animated.
You mean Mac Jones?
Jamar Chase and Mac Jones. Sorry, about Rookie of the Year. That one I'll get animated on. This one I'm okay with it. I'll take Surtain, but the guys ahead of him can play, and 2 of the 3 have been around for a while.
And that is my biggest issue with this, honestly. Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, both extremely good still. And number 2 that they have, Jalen Ramsey, that's the one I think I have the most issue with. His play has dropped over the last couple seasons. It just has. He doesn't have the same speed anymore, the same ability. I think that while he's still good, this is kind of the situation where you see like in Madden where a player's like in his 10th year and he's rated like 90 overall. And it's like, he was maybe 90
by now.
Yeah, he was 93 editions of Madden ago, but now not so much. And I think that's the case with Jalen Ramsey now. Still very good, not the same player as he was. And I don't even know if he's 30 yet. And the athleticism already starts to look like it's dipping. And that's the thing about cornerbacks, man. Their sunsets quick.
It's the most athletic position in all of. I say that NFL cornerbacks are the most athletic people in professional sports. Period.
Yeah.
With their quickness, strength, speed, size ratio, you might get an edge every once in a while that is that way, but put them in a real race and the corners are going to run all around them, or else you'd have a 6'5" corner out there. Yeah. And one of the other that jumps out here to me a little bit is number 6, Would you put Stephon Gilmore as the number 6 corner in the NFL? It goes Jair Alexander 5, Stephon Gilmore 6, Marshawn Lattimore 7, Trayvon Diggs 8, J.C. Horn 9, and Jamel Dean. I couldn't have told you who Jamel Dean was.
Oh, man.
Maybe that's why it says one of the league's most underrated cornerbacks. All right.
He went to Auburn. Scott, come on. No.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
I didn't know that. Like I said, I haven't watched college football in a while outside of NFL draft prospects, and he would have been before me.
Yeah. And no, Jamel.
I haven't watched Auburn in a while, since like 2 seasons of Bo Nix.
Yeah, no, he's been pretty good out there in Tampa. Good long player, good press corner. But yeah, the depth of the cornerback class, it does fall off there pretty sharply after 5. Jair Alexander, and injuries happen. Guys fall off a cliff pretty quickly in this league, and we've seen it. Tre'Davious White down here at 15. Xavier Howard has been questionable. Further down, Marlon Humphrey a few years ago was considered a top guy. He's fallen. So, I guess point that I want to get at to here about the cornerbacks in general, and for the Broncos, is that to appreciate Surtain right now, because he's year 3, and we don't know what it's going to look like a few years from now, even next season. So that fall for the cornerbacks can happen quickly. Obviously, it could still be great for another decade still, but cornerbacks tend to fall off rather quickly, and we'll see what happens with Surtain. But that's another reason I don't know if I agree with David's comment about tanking for those quarterbacks. Yes, if you don't have the quarterback, you're toast no matter what. But you have Surtain right now, and he's in his window, and he is an elite player. Not just good, he's an elite player.
Mm-hmm.
Try to build around that and see if you can capture something, because he can do stuff for you on that defense that could make it special. He's that kind of player.
Okay. Sauce Gardner had a good year. No doubt about that, right?
Yeah.
He's won. The guy way up there in the Pacific Northwest that's an afterthought. Jeremy says Denver is a flyover afterthought. How about Tariq Woolen? Is Sauce a 1 and Tariq Woolen's a 16? Is there that big of a variance between them that if I said, okay, I need my starting corners, and let's say I need my number 1 corner, I've only got 32 of them then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's number 1 and Tariq Woolen comes in league average. I'm not buying that one, dude.
Yeah.
If you're willing to, some of these guys that you mentioned have fallen, if I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt to a rookie to the point that I'm ready to put him number 1, Tariq Woolen should be higher.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think the thing that makes Sauce special, standing out wise, is that his ball production last season was unbelievable. I mean, 14 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, only 1 pick 6, but 14 times he's got his hands on the football is pretty outstanding for 642 reps. You do have Tariq Woolen with 10 pass breakups. It's such a small number that maybe it's the difference there is just noise in the stats, but the ability to make plays on the football that Sauce had, I think does make him stand out a little bit. Not that Tariq isn't great, and also Tariq had that knee surgery, so worth watching going forward.
6 interceptions. They tested the rookies, and Tariq came away with 6 interceptions.
That's pretty damn impressive. Yeah, I mean,
so like I'm saying, if you're willing to hold some of these veterans an extra couple of spots, okay, but you put a rookie number 1.
Yep.
Okay, so this rookie was pretty darned good too. Tariq Woolen was really, really good as well. And he says he doesn't get Jeremy says Woolen doesn't get the respect because of his draft position. That's part of it. What do you fall to, the 5th or 6th, or was he fourth round? And Seattle way up there where
fifth, excuse me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but it was definitely later than it should have been. I mean, he played like a first rounder last year.
Yeah.
And he's up in Seattle. The East Coast bias is a real thing. I know that, except for possibly LA. LA helps counterbalance some of that stuff. I lived in LA. I worked out of Seattle. So I've watched all this stuff. I've lived all over this great country of ours, and the East Coast bias is a real thing. Except LA. But yeah, Woolen shouldn't be. If you need to have some consistency there, Woolen should be higher than 16 if you've got Sauce at 1.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with Tariq Woolen this season. He was picked 1 pick after the Broncos took Delaire and Turniel. So that's always somebody that's going to be, that it might have been a better pick there, but what can you do? And good comment here also from Jeremy Sean, and this is one of the final things I wanted to point out. It's weird how patterns repeat themselves because I remember having this exact same conversation, Scott, 10 years ago, 15 years ago when it was Champ Bailey versus Darrelle Revis. Now, granted, Champ Bailey was older than Revis, and Revis's play was incredible at that time, but just the way the conversation was, you couldn't even mentioning Champ Bailey around Darrelle Revis was a threat or, just disrespectful because of how godly Revis was. But Champ obviously was just as good and better longevity than Revis was as well.
Yeah,
But,
I'd take Champ. I'd take Champ. The one I kind of grew up with a little bit was Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders, two very, very different corners. So that one was like arguing that one was a little strange. Not that people wouldn't do it. I want to come back to the OL question. Garrett Lawrence had a super chat earlier. He says Garrett Bowles has a learning disability. Without Munchak, he's hurting. With him, he's the best in the league. Thoughts on best in the league and his ability not to play without Mike Munchak?
I'm sure losing Munchak hurt. Maybe it's as much adding Butch Berry as it is losing Munchak. Also, last season, we just had issues with the quarterback, the offense in general. So this year, we'll find out with Garrett Bowles. The learning disability is a part of it. Not there, so I'm not going to judge how much of it is an issue with him, especially at this point in his career. How much difference is there in terms of the blocking scheme and winning those one-on-one matchups with the learning disability and what he's being taught, or just the ability to get out of, bad habits? I don't know. I don't know Bowles personally, but I'd be willing to give him a little bit more of leeway on that. But yeah, the offensive coaching staff last season and just the offense in general hurt everybody, and Bowles was a part of that pain.
I'm not going to comment on his learning disability because I don't know anything about it. I will comment on, wasn't Mike Munchak the coach in 2021?
Yes.
Garrett Bowles wasn't close to top of the league in 2021.
No. Yeah, I think he meant that Munchak is one of the top in the league, not Bowles, the way I read that, but doesn't matter. But Bowles has been up and down. He had his best season in the abbreviated kind of weird year without as many fans in the stands. And last year he regressed massively over a very small sample size. And the Broncos missed him, but his contract and his play last season, also being part of the old regime, both coaching and front office wise, makes me think that maybe Bowles is somebody that might not be long for the roster. Also, apparently there was discussion the Broncos approached him with a contract restructure, and he refuted it. So that's something where, well, they didn't love what he's being on right now. Will that change as they gather more information? Cam Fleming out there playing better against him. Bowles maybe not meshing with the new offensive line coach and Zach Strief. So a lot of variables changing, but Bowles with his contract and his age and how he's played in comparison to that is one of those ones that's high alert in terms of being potentially moved on from and what his position is going forward on this team.
Yeah, he's not playing on this contract in 2024. Be 32 years old, $20 million cap hit against a $4 million dead cap. That is the perfect situation. If he's playing well, you give him an extension and you change the contract for more favorable terms. You take what he's owed, you turn it into a bonus, and you give him a 3-year deal. That would knock his cap hit from 20 to 8. You'd free up $10 million with an extension. If you don't want him, you cut him and you free up $16 million and you eat the $4 million in dead cap hit. So I think he's safe this year, Nick, unless there's lingering injury concerns we don't know about. I think he's perfectly safe this year, but he's not playing on that contract in 2024. I'll call that one now.
Yeah, that's one that makes a lot of sense. Justin Simmons we'll see too, but Justin Simmons is still playing at a very high level. So a little bit of a different conversation.
So he'd be an extension candidate.
He's an extension candidate versus a extension versus cut.
Right.
So also with the position, safeties tend to age a lot more gracefully than a lot of spots. So feel good about Simmons long-term. But Bowles right now?
Simmons would be 31 and he'd be on 18 against a 3-7 dead cap. Frankly, Nick, he'd be a candidate to restructure now if you really needed some money.
Yeah.
I don't think the Broncos are in a position where they're like, okay, we need to free up $5 million to get this superstar that's going to put us over the edge. Mm-hmm. Next year, there'll be some deals done with Justin Simmons and Garrett Bowles.
Yeah. Yes, without a doubt, those are two big guys that'll we'll see what happens, and there'll be some interesting conversations surrounding them over the next couple weeks, couple months, rest of the season. So, Scott, final question here before we get on out of here and wrap it on up. What would Surtain have to do this season? What does it look like for him to vault himself into that number one spot without something crazy happening? Is it just Broncos playing better and more eyes on him, or what's going on?
Yeah, some of these are team awards. Unless you've got the stats to back it up. And if he's not getting tested, he's not putting up 10 interceptions.
Yeah.
Trayvon Diggs gets more, I won't say more, but considering how much he gives up, he's still listed as a top 10 corner because he's getting thrown at constantly. He picks one off every once in a while. Good for him. But the Broncos need to be more respected on the whole for Patrick Surtain to get more respect on the whole. And that's coming. That's coming, and you've got a mouthpiece out there in Sean Payton. When he starts talking about how good Pat Surtain is against some of the players he's coached and some of the players he's been around, it means more than a rookie head coach. And you've had nothing but rookie head coaches for how long now?
Since Gary Kubiak, since 2016.
So
I mean, I guess they weren't rookies.
So now you've got somebody that is, when he talks, it carries more weight.
Yeah. And Sean Payton likes to go on a little bit on the mic, which is fun. And he will have a chance to, go on a 10-minute monologue about Patrick Surtain being gypped and make it a talking point around the NFL for a week because he has that. What do you like to say? The Q rating for in the NFL circles, at least. Sean Payton says something, especially now with his connections at Fox News and the sports media. There's going to be a little bit more of ability to push some things and some narratives. So hopefully that means that he'll use it for good, and we'll see some much earned and much needed respect for Patrick Surtain going forward. And that also,
I don't consider him disrespected now.
Yeah.
But again, you're top 5. I'm not arguing levels of elite. I'll say it. He's top 4.
Yep.
He's well respected considering the hampers that have been put in front of him that we just mentioned. What needs to go away? Well, the Denver Broncos were a clown show last year.
Yep.
That's going to hurt him. You've got an established head coach who is incredibly well respected, who has some, I know a phrase around here a lot, is skins on the wall. He's got good comparisons. We had whoever, I can't even think of like a all-pro type corner in New Orleans that he had. I'm sure there was
Marshawn Lattimore.
I thought he was a safety at some time, though. But, compared to Marshawn Lattimore, he's ahead of him at this stage. That means something.
Yeah.
It does. And what means something to us is y'all coming in and helping us close out the show like Michael Ranquillo. Says, great show today, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. It's good to be back, my friend. Go Broncos and buck 'em. And DWI guys, Ethan coming in hot pink, saying Surtain is top 2 easily, but more important, what about the Tommy Hudson signing? Great show, gents, and Broncos country.
Yeah, God, Tommy Hudson, big move for the Broncos, bringing in a tight end. I don't know. He's going to be one that's going to compete for that 90 and give you some more depth there. These are the type of signings you're going to see mostly from now until camp, and you're going to see some guys of the same caliber as Tommy Hudson also moved on from. So keep your eye on the waiver wire. Maybe one of these guys breaks out. Some positions where there are some snaps available. Maybe tight end is one of them. Still, maybe Troutman's not guaranteed. Dulcich not completely all-around tight end, and Okwuegbunam last year and a limited player. So we'll see.
There's a phrase that college coaches have used, and they may at the pro. I've just been around a lot more college coaches. They call them program kids. When it hits the second day of practice in July and August, who's going to push the other players? Who do I know is going to come in and give me everything they've got and set an example and put some pressure on some of the established guys? That could be Tommy Hudson. He could be a guy with the 90 who's going to come in here and play Rudy for a couple of months and go out there and give it everything he's got for 2 months to help push some of the other guys forward and get a nice paycheck to do it. Do I consider Tommy Hudson to be a player the Broncos are going to be counting on to be a contributor in 2023 on the field, weeks 1 through 17, 18? No, I don't. But he can come in and help make the Broncos better. And you make us better, Ethan. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ethan. We appreciate you. And yeah, that's gonna have to start wrapping it up. I did want to share a few pictures from my backpacking trip, just because I know Scott really wants to come out and see some bears sometime, and I got a couple of just phenomenal photos.
I got a new one this week. You know what came through my front yard? A coyote.
Coyote. Interesting.
Coyote came through my front yard. Oh, he was skittish looking. Like, how did I end up here? Let me get back to the river.
Yeah, they're loud. I'm sure you've heard them before.
I haven't. I've seen a couple of red foxes here, but I'd never seen a coyote come through. They're a little more dangerous. They're why my cats are indoor cats.
Yep.
Those and the snakes and the hawks and the owls and the foxes.
So yeah, backpacking 3 days in Enchanted Valley in Olympic. This is the best time of year to go. And they have a chalet that's about 16 miles into this valley. It's only accessible by foot. So backpacked in there, and it's an area that is just teeming with bears. We had 10 separate bear sightings in 2 days, and we were, not out there really searching for them, just on the trail. And they just kind of, there's one right there. And there's the valley right there behind it, the chalet, and bear right there in front. So pretty darn incredible. And I think I saw the same bear later coming around a corner, and it's much bigger up close. I got to tell you that. So I shared Scott with this one as well. And it is this guy right here. So you can really get an idea of the size of the bears. They're fattening up for winter right now. So
yeah, so am I. So
yeah, you want to start early, right? It's bulking season.
Yeah, I don't want to have to. That's one time I don't want to procrastinate. I don't want to have to try and rush it around Halloween. I want to go ahead and get a good layer on in the summer.
Yeah. I mean, you got 4 months until you need to start thinking about the den out there. So yeah, no, a lot of fun. Got beautiful time of year. Shout out to Olympic National Park and all the, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said the national park's one of the greatest ideas America's ever had. And appreciate that. So yeah, and we did see more bigger and bigger bears, but they're all black bears, no grizzlies out here in Washington State. So no worries there, but that's going to have to do it. Scott, any final thoughts? We're back. I won't be back on Tuesday, probably. There's a little bit up in the air depending on what happens with me, but we'll be back for sure on Wednesday. What are your thoughts? What's going on, Scott?
I want to share one of mine real quick. This is kind of a cool story also from the weekend, since we're at the end here. If you want to tune out, thank you. Hit like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. So my son had one of the most incredible 0 for 2s you'll ever see, and this was the second one. Let me just got to spool up off my external hard drive, and then we'll come in. But he hit one into the teeth of the wind that would have gone about 400 and rested nicely at about 250 feet. So this was his second time up. All right, well, don't hit it so high, Sean.
What a catch.
That guy caught it behind his head on the run as the wind is bringing it back to him. How about that for a catch? So the other story behind this, that player's dad had committed suicide about a month ago. His parents were divorced. I was able to send that video to his mom and get it and tag them on Instagram and stuff. And they were just, it was nice that might be the best catch that kid ever makes in his entire life. That was amazing.
Probably.
And, for see them have some success, it made me feel good. And happy for him. Happy to see him out there playing. And that was a hell of a catch, Dylan.
Yeah. God. Insane. Insane catch. Well, I hope everyone had a great weekend. A lot of fun. Good to be back. We will keep you guys in the loop about what's happening here next week. No Mondays going forward for this foreseeable future. But yeah, make sure you guys are following Scott on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. Apple Podcasts, if you find us there, find us at an Apple Podcast and Spotify, Mile High Huddle, huddle up, and leave us a 5-star review and comment. And as the ticker says underneath here, please subscribe, like, and share. So that way when we go live, when we can hang out and talk a little bit more football. Shout out to Ethan coming in, DWI guys, with a big super chat. Lawrence Rivera also had a big one coming in here. I saw David Carmelo had a super chat in here today. And of course, kicking us off, maybe he'll reach the end of this because he had to leave early, but Troy Bower had a super chat kicking us off here before the show even started. So Scott, any final thoughts? We're getting on out of here on this Thursday.
Yep,
what day of the week is it? Thursday?
Thursday. And then Michael being our holding the fort down on
course.
Facebook. So thank you, Michael
Yes.
Ranquillo. No, my final thoughts. Good to be back. We're right back in the saddle. I was guesting on Friday and Sunday, so I haven't been gone as long as you, Nick, but welcome back. It's good to have you back. First day of June. We're ready for summertime.
Whew, summer is here. It feels nice. It's a good little crisp in the air still with the Pacific Northwest summer, but the sun's out. It's going to be great. You guys have a great yesterday. Have a great weekend. Make sure you continue to use kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.